Hello my dear friends, welcome back to English Legend. Today we will learn English through the history of the hidden history of salt. This story will help you improve your English while learning something important from the past. Have you ever felt the warm taste of a meal that makes you feel safe and happy? Have you ever noticed the small crystals that make your food taste perfect, like magic in your hands? Or perhaps, have you wondered how something so simple could be so important to human life? Today we will explore the story of salt, a humble mineral that has shaped history, cultures, and even wars. Salt is not just a seasoning. It is a story waiting to be told. Long, long ago, humans did not have refrigerators, freezers, or modern food preservation methods. People had to find ways to keep their food from spoiling. In those times, salt was one of the most valuable things in the world. Why? Because salt could preserve meat, fish, and other foods for long journeys. Without salt, people's food would rot quickly, and many would go hungry. Imagine walking for days or weeks with no fresh food, and salt was the only way to survive. Salt comes from the earth and the sea. Some people discovered salt from rock formations called salt mines. Others collected it from seawater through evaporation. Evaporation means that water slowly disappears into the air, leaving behind salt crystals. In some places, people would dig deep into mountains to find solid salt. In other regions, they would build shallow pools near the ocean and let the sun work its magic, turning salty water into glimmering white crystals. Can you imagine the patience and hard work it took to gather salt in these ancient times? It was like harvesting tiny pieces of treasure from the land and sea. Many early civilizations understood the power of salt. In ancient China, salt was used not only for food, but also as a way to trade and pay taxes. The Chinese government even controlled salt production carefully because it was so valuable. In Egypt, salt played a role in religion and life after death. Ancient Egyptians used salt to preserve bodies through a process called mummification. They believed that salt could protect life even after death. Salt became more than food. It became a symbol of life, wealth, and power. In the ancient Roman Empire, salt was so important that Roman soldiers were sometimes paid with it. This is where the word salary comes from. The Latin word salarium meant money given to soldiers to buy salt. Can you imagine being paid in salt? It shows how precious this mineral was. Salt was even a reason for roads called salt roads to be built across Europe. These roads connected salt mines to cities and markets, allowing people to trade this valuable mineral across long distances. But salt was not always easy to get. In many regions, salt was scarce. People would travel for days or weeks just to find a small amount of salt. Salt became a symbol of wealth and status. Some kings and leaders taxed salt heavily, making it a source of government income. In some countries, control over salt could even lead to wars. People fought to secure salt mines or trade routes. This may sound strange today because we have salt everywhere. But for centuries, salt was truly a treasure. Now, let's think about how salt shaped human civilization. Salt influenced what people ate, how they traveled, and even how they governed. For example, in West Africa, caravans carried large blocks of salt across the desert, trading them for gold and other goods. In Europe, monasteries and towns grew near salt sources because they provided food security and income. Salt created connections between people, regions, and nations. It encouraged trade, exploration, and the sharing of knowledge. Salt was also part of cultural traditions. In some countries, people still sprinkle a little salt on the doorstep for good luck. In others, salt is part of wedding ceremonies or religious rituals. Salt has a quiet way of showing its importance in our lives even today. It is everywhere. In kitchens, on tables, in medicines, and in stories. One interesting story comes from India. In the 1930s, British rulers controlled salt production and taxed it heavily. Salt was a basic necessity, but people had to pay a high price just to get it. Mahatma Gandhi, a great leader, led the Salt March. He walked more than 240 miles to the sea to make salt himself, peacefully challenging unfair laws. This act showed that even something as simple as salt could be a powerful symbol of freedom, courage, and justice. Salt has another hidden history in science. Long ago, people thought salt was magical. They believed it could protect against evil spirits, cure illnesses, and even make water safe to drink. Today, we know the science behind salt, but the mystery of salt fascinated people for centuries. It became part of human curiosity, art, and even medicine. Imagine a small pinch of salt. It seems so ordinary, but in the past it could feed armies, create empires, and connect distant lands. Salt reminds us that even the simplest things can hold great power. It teaches patience, resilience, and creativity. People had to find ways to extract it, transport it, and use it wisely. Salt shaped human history quietly but strongly, like an invisible thread linking generations. As we begin to understand the hidden history of salt, we see that it is not just about food. It is about survival, culture, trade, and courage. From ancient mines in China to salt caravans in Africa, from Egyptian mummies to Gandhi's peaceful march, salt has influenced human life in ways we often do not notice. It is a story of curiosity, discovery, and the human spirit. Salt is everywhere in our lives now. It is on our tables, in our kitchens, and in our stories. But thinking about its past, we can appreciate it more. Every grain of salt carries a story of effort, hope, and connection. The next time you sprinkle salt on your food, you might imagine the ancient hands that gathered it, the long journeys it made, and the people whose lives depended on it. As we continue our journey through the hidden history of salt, let us travel to the vast deserts, busy markets, and ancient cities where salt shaped the lives of millions. Imagine long caravans moving slowly across the hot sands of the Sahara Desert. Camels carry heavy blocks of salt, each weighing hundreds of pounds. The traders are tired and thirsty, but they know the value of salt. In these journeys, salt was not just food. It was money, a lifeline, and a symbol of wealth. People traded salt for gold, cloth, spices, and other treasures. Salt trade routes connected distant lands, creating friendships, rivalries, and stories that traveled far beyond the deserts. In Europe, salt also played an important role. Cities like Venice in Italy became wealthy because of salt. The Venetians carefully managed salt production and trade, making sure that this valuable mineral could reach markets all over Europe. Salt taxes were common in medieval Europe. Kings and rulers understood that controlling salt meant controlling people's food, survival, and even loyalty. Wars were sometimes fought over salt mines. Salt, a tiny white crystal, had the power to influence politics, economies, and entire nations. One fascinating story comes from Germany. In the town of Halle, there were salt springs that produced a special kind of salt. People called it white gold because it was so precious. Salt workers had to dig deep into the earth, breaking rocks and extracting salt with simple tools. Their lives were difficult and dangerous, yet they knew that their work fed families, armies, and nations. Imagine the smell of salt in the air, the sweat on workers' faces, and the sound of tools striking rock. Every grain of salt was a reward for hard work and perseverance. Salt was also a part of exploration. When sailors and explorers traveled across oceans, they had to carry enough salt to preserve their food. Without salt, ships could not survive long journeys. On board, salted meat, fish, and vegetables were lifelines for the crew. Salt helped explorers discover new lands, connect continents, and share cultures. In this way, salt not only nourished bodies but also fed curiosity and adventure. In Asia, salt was equally important. In Japan, salt was used in Shinto rituals to purify and protect people. In China, entire communities were built around salt production. Salt helped governments grow strong and wealthy, and it influenced local traditions and festivals. Salt was a bridge between daily life and spiritual practice. It was ordinary and extraordinary at the same time. But salt also had its challenges. In some regions, salt was scarce and people had to travel long distances just to get a small amount. This scarcity made salt a source of tension. In France, for example, there was a heavy tax on salt called the gabelle. People had to pay a high price for this basic necessity, and this unfair system caused anger and even rebellion. Salt could unite people, but it could also divide them. It reminds us that even simple things can have a powerful impact on society. Salt influenced art and literature too. Poets and writers often compared salt to life itself. Salt represents survival, endurance, and the small but essential things that give life flavor. In stories, salt is a symbol of wisdom, value, and care. Even today, we use expressions like worth one's salt to describe people who are skilled, reliable, and valuable. These sayings remind us how deeply salt is woven into human culture. One of the most beautiful aspects of salt history is its connection to communities. In places like Tibet and Nepal, salt trade created strong bonds between villages. Traders traveled through mountains, carrying salt in large blocks called salt bricks. They would trade salt for grain, tea, or other goods. These exchanges created trust, friendship, and understanding between people. Salt was more than a mineral. It was a connector of human lives, a small crystal with big influence. Salt also played a role in medicine and science. Ancient doctors used salt to clean wounds and prevent infections. People believed that salt could heal illnesses and strengthen the body. Today we know the science behind salt, but these early practices show how humans observed and learned from nature. Salt taught people patience, observation, and creativity. It was a teacher hidden in a simple crystal. During the Middle Ages, salt became even more precious. Towns and cities grew near salt sources. Monks and villagers developed methods to collect, dry, and store salt efficiently. Markets for salt became lively centers of trade. People understood that salt was not just about taste. It was about survival, health, and prosperity. Families depended on it, armies marched with it, and governments collected it. Salt shaped daily life in ways we rarely notice today. In the New World, explorers brought salt with them on ships across the Atlantic. Salt helped preserve fish, meat, and other food for long journeys. Settlers and explorers relied on it to survive in unknown lands. Salt helped people adapt, explore, and build new communities. Without it, history might have taken a very different course. One inspiring story comes from Africa. The ancient kingdom of Mali had abundant gold, but salt was scarce in the region. Traders would carry salt across dangerous deserts to exchange for gold. The salt trade created wealth, culture, and learning. Timbuktu, a city in Mali, became a center of education and knowledge, partly because of the wealth generated by salt. Salt, the humble crystal, contributed to the growth of knowledge, learning, and civilization itself. Salt teaches us lessons about patience and value. Gathering salt is not easy. It requires time, effort, and care. Trading salt requires fairness, trust, and responsibility. Salt reminds us that even small things can have a large impact. Every crystal tells a story of human effort, courage, and connection. Salt shows that the simplest things in life can carry the greatest meaning. Think about the journey of a grain of salt, from a distant mine, a sunny pool, or a salty spring, to your table today. Imagine the hands that worked hard to collect it, the travelers who carried it for miles, the families who relied on it, and the leaders who understood its power. Salt connects us to history, culture, and human spirit. It is a story of survival, curiosity, and creativity. As we explore the hidden history of salt, we see that it is more than just a mineral. It is a teacher, a connector, and a symbol of life. From deserts to oceans, from ancient cities to modern kitchens, salt has shaped our world quietly but strongly. Its story reminds us to appreciate the small things in life, to be patient, and to value the effort and care behind everyday treasures. As we continue our journey through the hidden history of salt, we enter a time when salt was not just a mineral, but a powerful force that could inspire people to act, unite communities, and even challenge rulers. Imagine bustling marketplaces, the smell of spices in the air, and merchants counting their salt blocks carefully. Salt was precious and people treated it with respect and care, understanding its power in their daily lives. One remarkable story comes from France during the time of the gabelle, a heavy salt tax imposed by kings. The gabelle made salt expensive, and ordinary people struggled to afford this basic necessity. Imagine a small family in a medieval village, trying to feed themselves while paying high taxes on salt. The people grew frustrated and tensions increased. Soon, the unfairness of the system led to rebellion. Ordinary villagers took brave steps to resist the injustice. Salt became a symbol of fairness and courage. Even a tiny mineral could inspire change and teach lessons about justice. In India, salt played another powerful role in history. During British rule, the colonial government controlled salt production and imposed taxes. Salt, something people needed every day, was now a tool for control. But Mahatma Gandhi, a great leader who believed in peace and justice, turned this simple mineral into a symbol of freedom. He led the Salt March in 1930, walking over 240 miles to the sea to make salt himself. Imagine Gandhi walking under the hot sun, joined by thousands of people, each step a statement of courage. This peaceful protest showed the world that even small, everyday things could become symbols of resistance and hope. Salt became more than a mineral. It became a message of unity, courage, and change. Salt also had a quiet but important influence on religion and culture. In many countries, salt was used in rituals to protect people, bless homes, and celebrate special occasions. In Japan, salt was sprinkled to purify spaces, while in the Middle East, salt symbolized friendship and loyalty. Weddings, festivals, and religious ceremonies often included salt because it represented life, preservation, and care. Even today, people around the world recognize the simple power of salt in their traditions. Let's travel to Africa for another story. In the ancient kingdoms of West Africa, salt was so valuable that it was traded like gold. Caravans crossed scorching deserts, carrying large blocks of salt. The journey was dangerous with scorching sun, sandstorms, and wild animals, but traders persevered because salt was essential for survival. Cities like Timbuktu and Gao became centers of wealth and knowledge because of the salt trade. Salt helped build libraries, schools, and centers of learning. A small mineral shaped not only economies but also education and culture. Salt was even part of survival at sea. Long before modern refrigeration, sailors had to carry salt to preserve food on long voyages. Without salt, fish and meat would spoil quickly, leading to hunger and illness. Salt was the reason sailors could explore new lands, trade across oceans, and connect different continents. Think about a ship in the 15th century, rocking on the waves, carrying barrels of salted meat and fish. Salt was there, silently supporting human curiosity and adventure. Salt also has lessons for patience and perseverance. Collecting salt was never easy. In hot sun or cold mountains, people worked tirelessly to extract and refine salt. Salt workers needed discipline, care, and endurance. Every grain represented effort and dedication. When we sprinkle salt on our food today, we rarely think about the hands that gathered it, or the long journey it traveled. Yet salt teaches us to value hard work and patience, even in small things. Another interesting story comes from China. Ancient Chinese civilizations carefully controlled salt production and trade because it was so valuable. Governments collected taxes on salt to fund projects, build cities, and maintain armies. Salt was a source of power and stability. At the same time, people respected salt for its practical and spiritual value. Chinese philosophers and scholars often wrote about salt, not just as a mineral, but as a symbol of balance and harmony in life. Salt reminds us that even everyday things can carry deep meaning if we observe and reflect. Salt influenced human health as well. Ancient doctors used it to clean wounds, prevent infections, and treat illnesses. Salt water was sometimes used as medicine or to improve hygiene. Over time, people learned the science behind salt, but even before modern medicine, salt played a crucial role in survival and well-being. It reminds us how nature provides solutions to human challenges, if we take the time to learn and understand. Salt also shapes social connections. In many communities, trading salt created bonds of trust and friendship. People traveled together, shared resources, and helped each other survive harsh environments. Salt was more than a product. It was a link between families, villages, and nations. Imagine a caravan resting after a long journey, sharing stories, food, and laughter, all made possible by salt. Salt is a reminder that small, simple things can connect lives and foster understanding. One of the most inspiring lessons from the history of salt is its role in courage and resilience. From the deserts of Africa to the mountains of Europe, from the sea voyages of explorers to Gandhi's peaceful salt march, salt has been part of human struggles and triumphs. It shows that even small things can have big impact. A simple crystal teaches us that life is about patience, effort, and belief in what is right. Salt is also a story of curiosity. People experimented with new ways to gather it, store it, and use it. Some built complex evaporation pools. Others dug deep mines. Some even studied it to understand its properties. Salt encouraged observation, learning, and innovation. Human curiosity, combined with the simplicity of salt, led to discoveries that shaped civilizations. Imagine walking through an ancient market, seeing barrels of salt glimmering in the sun, traders haggling, children playing nearby, and families depending on this small mineral for survival. Each grain carries history, culture, and wisdom. Salt is ordinary yet extraordinary. It teaches us lessons about life, community, courage, and curiosity. As we reflect on the hidden history of salt, we see that it is more than a seasoning. It is a story of perseverance, resilience, and connection. From deserts to oceans, from mines to markets, from rituals to revolutions, salt has shaped human lives in ways we can barely imagine. Salt is a teacher, quietly guiding us to value patience, effort, and simple yet meaningful things in life. As we reach the final part of our journey through the hidden history of salt, let us pause and reflect on how this simple mineral continues to influence our lives today. Salt is everywhere in modern kitchens, but its story reminds us that ordinary things can carry extraordinary meaning. Every grain of salt carries centuries of human effort, creativity, courage, and curiosity. By learning its story, we connect not only to history, but also to the wisdom of the people who came before us. Even today, salt plays an important role in our health and well-being. It is essential for life, helping our bodies function properly. Too little or too much salt can affect us, teaching us balance and care. Just like salt, life is about moderation, understanding, and respect. Its hidden history reminds us that small, simple things can hold great power and importance. Salt is also a story of human connection. From ancient salt caravans in Africa to bustling markets in Europe, from rituals in Asia to revolutions in India, salt has linked people across continents and generations. It reminds us that even the smallest resource can bring people together, inspire creativity, and build communities. Think of the sailors who carried barrels of salt across oceans, or the families who worked tirelessly in salt mines. Their stories teach us resilience, dedication, and the value of hard work. History shows that salt has shaped civilizations. Empires grew wealthy from it, explorers traveled further because of it, and ordinary people risked their lives to gather and trade it. Salt influenced economies, cultures, and traditions. Yet in every story we see one constant truth: the human spirit. People everywhere have shown patience, courage, and curiosity in the pursuit of something as simple as salt. It is a reminder that greatness often comes from perseverance in small, everyday efforts. Salt also teaches lessons about fairness and justice. The French gabelle and Gandhi's Salt March remind us that even small injustices can spark courage and change. A tiny grain of salt became a symbol of freedom and equality. Salt shows us that what may seem ordinary can carry extraordinary meaning, especially when used wisely and with purpose. In our daily lives, salt continues to connect us to history. When we sprinkle it on food, we honor the countless hands that gathered it, the traders who carried it across deserts and oceans, and the communities who relied on it for survival. Salt reminds us to value the ordinary, to respect effort, and to appreciate the simple treasures in life. Every day we have small opportunities to act with care, patience, and courage, just like the people in salt's history. Salt also inspires curiosity. People throughout history studied it, experimented with it, and discovered its uses. Today we continue to explore, learn, and understand the world around us. By learning English through stories like this, we are doing something similar. We are connecting with history, observing the world, and expanding our minds. Learning is like gathering salt. Each small effort adds up to something meaningful and valuable. Think about the lessons salt teaches us: patience, perseverance, courage, curiosity, and connection. These are not just lessons from the past. They are lessons for our lives today. Salt shows that even the smallest things can have a big impact, whether it is in history, culture, or our personal growth. By paying attention to these details, we become wiser, kinder, and more understanding. As we finish this story, imagine a tiny grain of salt. It may seem small, simple, and ordinary, yet it has traveled through deserts, oceans, mountains, and markets. It has nourished people, inspired revolutions, connected cultures, and even shaped empires. A simple crystal teaches us that life is full of small but meaningful moments, and that every effort we make has value. My dear friends, I hope this story of salt has inspired you. As you continue learning English, remember that stories are not just words on a page. They are lessons, adventures, and windows into the past. Every story you read or hear adds flavor to your mind, just like salt adds flavor to food. Keep listening, keep reading, and keep exploring. Every step of learning, no matter how small, brings you closer to understanding the world and yourself. So next time you see salt on your table, think about its journey. Think about the deserts, the mountains, the oceans, and the people who worked to bring it to you. Remember the courage of those who marched for justice, the creativity of those who extracted it from rock and sea, and the care of those who preserved it for survival. Salt is a teacher, a connector, and a symbol of life's quiet but extraordinary lessons. Let this story remind you that learning English, like understanding salt, is a journey. Each word, sentence, or story is a grain of knowledge. Each small effort adds up. Be patient with yourself. Explore with curiosity. And always remember that even small steps can lead to great discoveries. Just as salt has shaped history, your learning today can shape your future. Keep your mind open, your heart curious, and your spirit determined. Let the hidden history of salt inspire you to appreciate the ordinary, find meaning in small things, and continue learning every day. The world is full of stories waiting to teach us, and every story is a treasure, just like salt. Remember, my dear friends, learning English through stories is not just about language. It is about connecting with history, culture, and life itself. Keep exploring, keep listening, and keep learning. Every word you learn, every story you hear, is a step towards understanding, wisdom, and growth. Salt, a simple mineral, teaches us that even the smallest things can have the greatest impact. Let this story stay with you, inspiring your learning, your curiosity, and your journey in life. And always remember, the hidden history of the world is waiting for you to discover, one story at a time.